It was supposed to be a forgettable awards night in Los Angeles. Red carpet, flashbulbs, politicians disguised as punchlines, stars grinning through insults masked as jokes, a loop on repeat, until she walked in. Karoline Leavitt, grace in a forest green gown, silver crucifix at her collarbone. Not flashy, just precise, intentional. But what really made heads turn wasn't her dress. It was the man beside her, Daniel Whitmore, former Marine, tall, built like a fortress, moved like a shadow. Not famous, not loud, just real. "Is that her security?" someone whispered near the paparazzi pen. "No," came the murmur. "That's her husband." The ballroom changed. A low buzz filled the room like static before a storm. And then, lights down. Spotlight. Out stepped the host, Tom Cruise. He looked perfect. He always did. Smile sharp enough to cut glass, voice smooth enough to sell lies. He greeted the crowd like a king who knew his throne was safe. "We've got movie stars, senators, and even a few people who think the moon landing was staged." Laughter. "And here she is." Karoline Leavitt, America's favorite flamethrower, brought her husband too. "Guy looks like he walked off a Marine poster." More laughter. Karoline didn't flinch. But Daniel's jaw tightened like a steel trap. Tom wasn't finished. "Honestly, I thought he was her bodyguard, until I saw the ring. She married him? What was Jason Bourne busy?" Roars, applause, champagne clinks. But something broke. Karoline's fingers grazed the edge of her napkin. Delicately, she set it down. Looked once at Daniel. He nodded. Subtle, unreadable. They both stood. She walked backstage. Tom kept riffing, but the air had shifted. Something unscripted was unfolding. Then it happened. The lights dimmed again, unplanned. A second spotlight flickered on. From the wings, Karoline emerged. No cue, no permission, no fear. She took a second microphone. Didn't look at Tom. Her eyes scanned the room like a commander surveying a battlefield. "If you're going to joke about me," she said, "I should be allowed to answer." Scattered laughter, unease. Somewhere, a flute of champagne tilted but didn't spill. "You mocked my husband," she said. "Not a joke. A veteran, 10 years in uniform, real danger, not movie stunts." Silence. "You know," she added, "I didn't expect to be welcomed here. I'm not your kind of guest. I'm not from this town. I come from service, from sacrifice, from people who believe respect isn't something you laugh at for ratings." She turned, glanced once at Tom. As for Jason Bourne, cute line, but trust me, Jason Bourne wouldn't last 10 seconds against him. And the room burst. Cheers from the back rows, whistles from veterans, applause from corners not known for clapping. She let it settle. Then, "I don't need a film deal to hold a stage. I just need the truth." She handed the mic back, walked off, spotlight flickering behind her like a curtain that just dropped on Act 1. The broadcast ended, but the tremors had only begun. Tom Cruise stood backstage, jaw clenched, a thin line of sweat cutting down his temple. The studio lights had cooled, but not the fury inside him. He had built an empire on charm, smooth delivery, and a carefully manicured patriotism. And now, in one blinding segment, Karoline Leavitt had set fire to all of it. She had hijacked his show, and worse, she had made sense. Within minutes, the internet detonated. Clips of the segment splintered across every corner of social media. One TikTok looped Karoline's takedown with war drums and slow zooms. Another mashed it into an AI-generated rap battle. Tom looked ridiculous. His indignation was now meme material. Tom's rage face was trending before midnight. But while the internet laughed, network executives didn't. In a dark-paneled office 4 floors above the studio, Mara Tilden, the network's executive vice president of public affairs, stared at the footage with a cold, unblinking gaze. She turned to her aide without shifting her eyes from the screen. "Book her again," she said. "Ma'am, You heard me? She made him look old and scared. That sells. Meanwhile, Karoline wasn't basking in victory. She was pacing. Daniel Leavitt, her brother and campaign manager, met her in the parking garage under Studio 9. He had a laptop under one arm, his phone glued to his ear, and 2 missed calls from Tucker Carlson blinking on his screen. "You lit a fuse," he said, barely able to hide the grin. "I didn't plan it like that." "Karoline, he tried to embarrass you. You pulled a judo throw on live TV. They're calling it the Leavitt lockout." She exhaled slowly, trying to center herself. "It's not about winning a soundbite war, it's about the movement. They don't get to bury our ideas under studio laughter anymore." Daniel opened the laptop, spinning it toward her. A new YouTube upload titled, "This is Why Karoline Leavitt Will Win Gen Z," had already hit 1.2 million views. "You just became a symbol, and symbols? They're dangerous." Back at the network, the crisis control team huddled like surgeons around Tom Cruise. His tie was gone. His hair, usually gravity-defying, now hung low, the weight of humiliation pulling it down. He scrolled silently through the comments under his segment. Karoline walked in and handed him a new spine. This aged man really thought he could gotcha her? "Tom, sweetie, it's over." A young producer dared to speak. "We can recover this. Spin it. Say you allowed her to speak, that you were being generous." Tom's eyes were glassy, a storm gathering behind them. We bury her. 2 nights later, Tom returned to air with a special edition of his program. The intro music was darker, the lighting harsher. No audience, just him, and a folder of selectively edited clips. He went full offensive. "We were all charmed by the youth, but behind the smile lies a dangerous ideology. Tonight we reveal what Ms. Leavitt doesn't want you to know." They aired out-of-context tweets. They interviewed cherry-picked former classmates. They played up every minor misstep in her past. The camera cut close on Tom's face as he leaned forward. "Don't be fooled. The future Karoline Leavitt wants is not one you'd want to live in." It was character assassination 101, clinical, relentless, designed to stir fear. But Karoline was already prepared. The next morning, she walked onto the set of The Daniel Project, a rising conservative YouTube channel streaming live to millions. The studio was makeshift, neon lights, brick wall backdrop, mismatched coffee mugs, but the reach was massive. She sat down, looked straight into the lens. "They think this is about me. It's not. It's about you. If they can twist my story, imagine what they can do to yours. This isn't my fight alone anymore. It's ours." Boom. Message sent. Across the country, people sat up. Teenagers on Twitch paused their streams. Parents replayed the clip at dinner. A wave of digital energy surged toward her, not just in support, but in defense. And then came the invitation that changed everything. A return to the Cruise Report. Live, unedited, 1 week from now. Karoline stared at the envelope. Daniel tapped it with a single finger. "They want a rematch." "No," she said quietly. "They want a spectacle." He raised an eyebrow. "You're not going?" "Oh, I'm going," she smiled. "But this time, I'm bringing everyone." 1 week later. Studio 6 was redesigned. This wasn't going to be just another segment. It was war theater now. Spotlights burned through the smoke like interrogation lamps. The audience had been replaced by select influencers, handpicked by the network to amplify one voice and one voice only. Tom Cruise's. But Karoline Leavitt didn't walk in alone. Behind her marched a quiet storm, veterans of the culture war. Young authors, podcast hosts, data nerds, TikTok polemicists. People whose names you might not know, but whose videos you definitely had scrolled past at 2 a.m. They took their places like soldiers manning a battery. Karoline sat center stage, serene. No teleprompters, no handlers, just a small mic clipped to her blouse, and a quiet fire in her chest. Tom Cruise entered to a synthetic roar. It was pre-recorded, artificial. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cruise Report. Tonight, America watches. And they did. 20 million tuned in live. From the first question, it was obvious. Tom had learned nothing. You said on your last appearance that Gen Z doesn't trust legacy media. What makes you think you deserve that trust? Karoline blinked slowly, not with confusion, contempt. I don't want their trust. I want their discernment. If I ever become as manipulative as you, I hope they throw me out too. Boom. The crowd behind her didn't cheer. They didn't have to. Their silence was defiance. Their stillness, a message. We don't play by your rules anymore. Tom stammered. He flipped to a new page. So let's talk policies. You've suggested abolishing the Department of Education. That's pretty extreme, isn't it? She leaned forward, calm, surgical. Extreme is what we've accepted for the last 30 years. Bureaucrats who've never stepped foot in a classroom deciding what kids should believe. That's not education. That's indoctrination with a pension. Tom's fingers twitched. This wasn't going how they'd planned. He reached for his final card, the personal attack. You've talked a lot about transparency, but there are reports, unconfirmed of course, that your campaign took donations from groups linked to... Linked to what, Tom? She cut in. To ideas you don't like? He froze. She didn't. Your producers spent a week digging through my life. Meanwhile, your advertisers sponsor pharmaceutical cartels, data mining firms, and defense contractors that can't explain half their budget, and I'm the scandal? No music swelled. No dramatic zoom. Just silence. And then, an audible gasp from someone in the influencer pit. A ripple. A viral moment born live. Backstage, Daniel Leavitt and the rest of her team watched the feed like a lunar landing. She's off script, one whispered. She is the script now, Daniel said. The final blow didn't come from her. It came from the people. Within minutes, Twitter lit up with a new hashtag. #We stand with Leavitt clips exploded across Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. Young journalists uploaded side-by-side fact checks, Karoline's claims versus Tom's edits. And for the first time in a long time, the fact-checkers weren't on legacy media's side. Tom Cruise ended the show early. His eyes didn't meet the camera. They didn't meet Karoline's either. He muttered something about time constraints and shuffled his papers while the outro music drowned him out. Outside the studio, Karoline stepped into the cool night air. A group of Gen Z kids, hoodies, Doc Martens, cracked iPhones, stood waiting. You wrecked him? One girl whispered. Karoline didn't gloat. She simply nodded. This isn't about wrecking anyone, she said. It's about reclaiming the conversation. And then she walked into the darkness, not as a candidate, not as a guest, but as a symbol reborn. The next morning, mainstream networks scrambled to spin the outcome of the Cruise Report. MSNBC tried the angry populist angle. CNN used words like combative and unrefined. But it was no use. Every clip, every soundbite, every clean, unfiltered truth Karoline had laid bare had already been chopped, edited, subtitled, and uploaded to every inch of the internet. Her voice was no longer hers. It belonged to the moment, and the moment was everywhere. Tom Cruise, on the other hand, disappeared. No new episode, no apology, no press tour, just an automated tweet posted from his account. Thank you for your support. Time for reflection. Translation: he was finished. Meanwhile, Karoline's campaign headquarters turned into a command center for a cultural insurgency. Not funded by billionaires, not sponsored by legacy think tanks, but by memes, live streams, and a generation too smart to fall for polished lies. A viral fundraiser titled "Put Her Back on the Stage" raised $1.8 million in under 12 hours. The average donation? $12.36. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. This wasn't corporate. It was communal. The next week, Karoline returned. This time, not to a hostile studio, but to a high school auditorium in Tulsa, Oklahoma. No cameras, no makeup, just folding chairs and 300 restless teenagers, all holding up phones and waiting for the woman who'd finally said what they'd been thinking. She didn't enter to music. She walked in through the side door, took the mic, and sat cross-legged on the edge of the stage. "They told me politics was about money, media, and moderation," she said. "But that's not what you need. What you need is someone willing to get booed by the right people. Someone who won't flinch when the algorithm turns against them. Someone who understands that when power gets too comfortable, it stops serving you and starts using you." The kids didn't erupt in applause. They listened, like it mattered, because it did. Later that night, back in New York, a silent emergency meeting convened inside a corner office at the network headquarters. Executives, producers, PR flacks. They circled the table like generals in a losing war. "She changed the rules," one of them said. "No," another corrected. "She reminded them there are no rules anymore." A new name was written on the whiteboard, underlined twice: Leavitt. They didn't know whether to fear her or become her. Meanwhile, in a tiny apartment in Detroit, a 14-year-old girl watched the full debate on a cracked tablet. Her mom was asleep on the couch. The lights were off. When Karoline said, "This isn't about wrecking anyone, it's about reclaiming the conversation," the girl hit pause and whispered to no one in particular, "Finally." The camera fades, but the story doesn't. Because somewhere, in every city, on every feed, someone just picked up the mic. And the old media? It's still wondering how it all slipped away. While the new voices, they're already writing the next chapter.